Hello, I'm MalaniKai. It's my co-host Shelley Wynter. We are the host of Word on the Street on WSB Radio. Really excited to do our first Zoom. And Shelley Wynter, one of the reasons why we wanted to do this Zoom with our guests is because a fascinating survey came out. We're in a political season about African American women and voting. So we're happy to
In
welcome
Georgia.
in Georgia, yes, in Georgia. So we are happy to welcome to Word on the Street Zoom Roshni Nedungadi.
Who's the Democratic pollster and a partner at Hit Strategies. And your company conducted the poll of 495 African-American women, all registered voters. I'm correct. Am I correct?
Yes.
Yes, all registered voters. And one of the first questions we have is, the poll was conducted, 52% of the African-American women that you polled did not know that the runoff is on January 5th. And I found that interesting because there's probably a couple $1 million, tens of millions of dollars being spent on advertising. And much of it says, early voting starts December 14th today, and election day is January 5th. Can you explain why such a high number would not know that?
Yes. So the question we asked was an open-ended question. Can you tell us what day the election is occurring on? So 52% of Black women in Georgia could not name the date that the election was occurring. And I think that that's a result of a lot of the competing dates, a lot of misinformation, a lot of disinformation, but we know that there was a registration deadline that happened on December 7th. Today is the early vote day, the day that you could start early voting. There's an early vote cutoff date, and then election day itself is on January 5th. So I think it's very important for this group of women, the Black women and all voters in Georgia, to really have all of the information at hand and understand what each of the dates, what is happening on each of these important dates, so that they know when they need to go vote by and how to vote.
So, what is the thinking that in order for you're on the Democratic side, in order for Warnock and Ossoff to win, you need Black women voters in Georgia? Is that correct?
Yes, absolutely. Black women have been the backbone of the Democratic Party all over the country, but certainly in Georgia, and we saw that in November. And so we'll need to turn out the majority, all of the Black women that voted in November, hopefully plus some who are newly registered, newly engaged as well.
According to Stacey Abrams, I think she was on Jake Tapper this weekend. She said that there were 85,000 new voter registrations. Have you heard that number?
Yes, new voter registrations, they've been working very hard since the November election to register young voters as well, voters who had turned 18 between the voter registration deadline before the November election to now as well.
So, Roshni, what are some of the issues as you're doing this polling of Georgia women voters, Black women voters? What are some of the issues that concern them that would push them to the polls to vote? Obviously, you want them to vote for Ossoff and Warnock. What are some of these issues that push them to vote?
So when we asked what are some of the most important issues in your opinion, 71% of Black women in Georgia said coronavirus was their major issue right now. 54% said racism and discrimination, and 42% said healthcare. Now, incidentally, there are a number of bills on the table in the Senate that have been tabled in the Senate that could come up to vote to address these three issues, that Warnock and Ossoff would be able to vote on these to, have an immediate impact in Black women's lives around coronavirus with the HEROES Act, around racism and discrimination with the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act, and then on healthcare with, Strengthening Healthcare and Lowering Prescription Drug Cost Act, the Protecting Americans with Pre-Existing Conditions Act. There are just a lot of bills on the table in the Senate that could have an immediate impact on these important issues for Black women.
That being said, all of the advertising run by Purdue and Loeffler seem to, so you combine the attack ads from Purdue and Loeffler with the ads that Ossoff and Warnock are running. And one that comes to mind, Warnock is running about wanting to give Medicaid for all, everybody as a human right. When you look at those ads that are running, do you think that that the Republicans are running ads that's almost driving it's almost driving votes for the Democrats because of the thing like defund the police means something entirely different to how the Republicans are phrasing it than how African American women in particular receive it. So George Floyd Act it's kind of tied into defund the police. So they're almost running ads attacking their opponents, but it's almost driving turnout. Do you feel that way based on the poll?
I'm not sure about the attack ads themselves, but I think it's really clear in this case which party is standing up for the values of Black women, especially when their three top issues are coronavirus, racism and discrimination, and healthcare. We have one party who's trying to take away healthcare from millions of Americans versus one party who's trying to strengthen healthcare protections for communities that need it the most, especially because the Black community has been hardest hit by the coronavirus pandemic. And these Black women in Georgia know it and are trying to protect their families and their communities.
And again, we're talking to Roshni Nedungadi. How did I do? Did I do pretty good?
Very well, thank you.
She's a Democratic pollster and partner at HIT Strategies. The poll here in Atlanta, close to 500 Black African American women. Shelley Wynter, you said something interesting down at State Farm Arena today. Lots of people.
Lines are already forming. They already have lines down there.
Yes, and for the most part, do you see that as favorable for the Ossoff and Warnock?
Well, we saw in the November election, a lot of Democrats around the country turned out to vote early, voted early in person or voted by mail early. In this poll, 42% of Black women that we polled in Georgia plan on voting in person early before January 5th. And then another 31% plan on voting by mail before January 5th as well.
One of the things that you polled, or the questions you asked was about what were you looking for as traits in your candidate, and you had 59% said a community leader, free of scandal in their professional or business life, 59%, free of scandal in their personal life, 51%, and here's the interesting thing: lots of elected experience, 42%. So you have two guys who've never been elected to office before, but these women seem to be leaning towards them, even though 42% of them want lots of elected experience, which of the four candidates we know only one has, which is Perdue, and he's got only 6 years of elected experience. So how do you kind of put those two things together? Excuse me.
Yeah, I would say that looking at these traits, I mean, the way that we asked this question was we put all of them up in front of the women to, say, how much does each of these traits matter to you? And I think when we look at which ones came out on top, so community leader, free of professional scandal, free of business scandal, those are the ones that are most important to these women. And then they'll weigh the rest depending on, where candidates fit in with what they're thinking of. I thought a very interesting point was the Black women looking for someone who is religious. For Black women over the age of 50, 36% said it was very important, that it matters a lot that the candidate that they vote for is religious, versus those under age 50, only 25% said that. And it was in fact the least important trait for their candidates to be religious.
That's for people under 50.
Black women under 50, yes. And I don't think that means it's not important at all. I think just in the consideration of these different characteristics and traits, they prioritize some over others.
And Roshni, my last question for you is just for clarification: if Black women in Georgia, and don't just for clarification for Shelley Wynter and I, we're giving out information. We're not here to tell Black women to vote for whomever, do what you want to do. But for what you do on the Democratic side, you're telling Black women in Georgia, if you want Ossoff and if you want Warnock, you are the important catalyst to them winning this election.
Yep, and I think it goes beyond which candidates you want. I think it goes straight to the idea that there are bills on the table right now in the Senate that have been tabled because there is a Republican majority. If we want to pass legislation on coronavirus to get another stimulus check, on healthcare to protect pre-existing conditions, on the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. There are 2 senators that you can vote for right now in Georgia who will go to the Senate and pass those bills, which will have an immediate impact not only on your lives and your community, but the country as a whole. So there's a lot of power here to be had for Black women in Georgia.
Which is interesting because from my side of the fence, some of the attacks on African-American voters, particularly women voters who vote 95, 96% Democrat, there's always the attack of what do you get out of your vote? What you're showing, what your poll is showing now is that here is something that is tangible, that you know if you vote for these 2 candidates, you will get, and these are the important things in your mind as a voter. These are the most important things. Is that what you're also saying, or you're seeing in the poll, from the poll?
Yep, that's exactly correct. It's not often that we can point directly to your vote equaling immediate change in something, but in this case, there are a long list of bills that are sitting in the Senate right now that, if passed, could have immediate impact on the lives of people in this country.
The last question, and I know we have to let you go, and we appreciate you very much. We really do. If you were, I know you're a Democratic pollster. This is a total hypothetical. What advice would you say to the Republican candidates based on your polling that they should do going forward? If you can answer that, but just hypothetically, because I know what I no. Well, no, because I would say your polling tells these candidates what Black women are looking for. And so unless you talk about these issues one way or the other, you're not going to get anything from them. And that's what I guess,
Yeah. I think my advice would be to pass these bills in the Senate. They're clearly so important for these Black women, and they're sitting on them right now. So it seems like there's something that they could do immediately that would have impact on the community.
Well, we thank
Thank
you
you.
so much,
That's a
Roshni.
great answer.
Yes,
Thank you.
Roshni.
Thank
I
you.
felt like you were trying to get her to give
No.
advice
She,
to your side. No, I'm
no,
just
no,
kidding.
no,
I'm
no.
just kidding.
But she said the most important thing. She said this is sitting on a table now.
Right.
Heroes Act has been sitting on the table since
Forever,
May
yeah.
20th.
Mhm.
Yep.
So your answer is totally correct. And if you're not going to pass it, tell us why.
Right.
You know what I mean? If it's filled with a lot of garbage, tell us that. But you're opening yourself up to attack. And that's not a Black, these 3 bills are not really a Black woman issue, especially the Heroes Act. That's a human, that's a worker issue. So
Exactly.
no, I love your answer. Thank you very much.
Yes, and we
Thank
appreciate
you.
being Roshni Nedungadi being our first Zoom for Word on the Street. She's a Democratic pollster and partner at Hit Strategies. And the whole country, Roshni, is watching what's going to happen in Georgia, and we appreciate you being with us.
Yes, thank you so much.
And if you're listening to this and you're a politician or you're a company, please hit up Roshni and Hit Strategies to do your polling.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All
God
right,
bless you.
Thank you.
You too.